Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming out to the show. Happy Harvest Moon. I know we're all celebrating. Lots to celebrate tonight. We did pass the 11-year mark of me being out of the closet to my parents. Thank you. That one I'm only really keeping track of because it's impossible not to. It was their wedding anniversary. Which turns out is one of the gayest times to come out of the closet. So this day has nothing to do with me. We'll see about that. I handled it well. For a little while, they wanted to send me on a singles retreat, which is what I called it. They called it conversion therapy. At the time, it was like, what better place to meet eligible men? I did watch an unhealthy amount of documentaries on conversion therapy just to psych myself up. One of the documentaries followed a conversion therapy camp, and it showed the counselors preparing a big play they were going to put on for everybody. I was like, that is evidence enough that this isn't working. I'm sorry, your big trick to turning people straight was theater? Shocker, that one's not panning out. If I drank the gayest activities that I participated in, it would go musical theater, non-musical theater, having sex with men. It's a lot less flamboyant to bring a man to climax than it is to earnestly sing Grease Lightning. Like in high school, I was the only kid who was out of the closet, and I did theater. And one day at rehearsal, someone had the audacity to ask me, Danny, how does it feel being the only gay person here? Like, I fucking doubt it. You think I'm the only queer in this auditorium doing the hand jive right now? You were singing Les Miserables 16 seconds ago, and that is not the show we're doing, so... Calls coming from inside the house. My parents reacted fine. My dad wasn't fully on board at first, and then he watched Grace and Frankie and got over it. My mom, on the other hand, said, Danny, a mother knows. Yeah, I think she's giving herself a lot of credit. It's like, did you know or did I not know you can clear your browser history? Because that would have been a game changer for me. Would have avoided the most uncomfortable family gathering of my life. Because my mother, being the super sleuth she was, couldn't pinpoint which one of her children were Googling such things, so she confronted us all at once. I was like, all right, guys, who's been abusing the computer privileges? And I was like, not me. Definitely not your kid that knows how to tap dance and cries a lot. Sounds like I'm being framed, quite honestly. Probably by one of these fruitcakes you raised. And that is a good tip for anyone here who's questioning their sexuality. If you exclusively watch gay porn, you can just connect those dots. That one took me a few years to figure out on my own. I do watch porn. I do think it is detrimental to society in ways we definitely could have foreseen coming. It just paints a very inaccurate depiction of what reality is actually offering. For example, one thing they wildly misconstrue is that saliva is not lubricant. And for my own peace of mind, I'm going to need everyone in here to repeat that back to me. Saliva is not lubricant. Thank you so much. The amount of men that think that me giving 2 minutes of head is enough prep to stick it in dry areas is insane. Someone tried this on me a couple years ago. He was like, how does that feel? And I was like, oh, what, that hot piercing sensation on my shitter? Bad. I came over here to watch Euphoria. I don't know what you're doing. Halfway through the episode, he starts pulling this shtick. Now I have to go home and rewatch Euphoria? Are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, my parents told me they do not like my vulgar material, so I will pivot and go back to targeting them. They're great. Last year my mom beat stage 4 cancer, which is pretty amazing. I always felt like she'd pull through. She'd been through a lot worse, like 4 pregnancies, which I can say as the youngest, too many. They were tough on her. She should have stopped rolling the dice a while ago. My eldest brother, he was a C-section baby. Second brother broke my mom's hip during childbirth. Yeah, third one died in there, and then I crawled out like the Exorcist. So. And we put that woman through the ringer. She's good. She's been getting me into essential oils, which is fun. Not selling them, don't worry. Just like using them, not like instead of medicine. They've got an oil for everything, from the common cold to severe mental health concerns. I don't think they found one that cures cancer yet, but I'm sure they're working on it. I do think we put them to good use. We make like soap and lip balms and other lotions and potions and diffuse them in our cauldrons, because it's witchcraft, we all know this. She's the only one in denial. She's like, Danny, I don't like it when you make that comparison. Well, I don't like it when our eyes roll to the back of our heads and we always speak Latin, but I'm not making a big goddamn deal about it. She says she's not a witch, but then she also shares the most unsettling family stories you've ever heard. Like the fact that her and her grandmother believed they could dream the future. Anybody else? Yeah, if you dreamt something 3 nights in a row, it was a sign of something to come. Like my great-grandma, she dreamt 3 nights in a row of her brother's pet bird. That week her brother died, and she was like, called it. Didn't tell anyone. Not the point, she knew. My mom dreamt 3 nights in a row that she was pregnant again after me, and she was freaking out. She didn't want to give birth to the 4th horseman of the apocalypse. She was trying to remain calm, was going over to our family friend Carol's house that night, brought a bottle of wine, but Carol was like, oh no thanks, I'm not drinking. And my mom just immediately said, oh my God, because you're pregnant. Yeah, because that's the only reason someone would choose sobriety to her. And before Carol can answer, my mom just goes, thank God, I thought it was me. How are you doing? Carol's like, I'm scared. Because I'm pregnant again and you're being really fucking weird about it. What do you mean you thought it was you? And just like the firstborn daughters before me, I also dreamt something 3 nights in a row. Dreamt that I went to hell. Huge bummer. Big L for Danny. One saving grace was that a woman in the dream told me I wasn't supposed to be there. I don't know who she was. I couldn't see good with all the blood in my eyes, but I told that to my mom, and she was like, that could mean anything. Real glass half full kind of lady. And she's had good support around her too, like her husband, my dad. Lovely man, great guy. Doesn't always think through all of his actions, but what are you gonna do? Like, he recently told me he regrets not joining the army, and I reminded him he was the stay-at-home parent. I was like, really? You would have rather have gone to war than hung out and watched Kim Possible with me? That's all I had on the docket. So it was just a little awkward at times. Like, it was really uncomfortable when he gave me the talk growing up. You guys know the talk that all parents have with their kids, where they sit them down and explain who they love the most in the family and why. Did anybody else get that talk? Or was that just a Kevin Lang original? If you did get that talk, we can cross-examine some points. Number 1 on my father's list was God, which... Yeah, stiff competition right out the gate, competing for my father's love with Alpha and Omega. Number 2 on the list, his wife, my mother. I feel like she'd also be pissed at who's in the number 1 spot. Number 3 on the list, me and my brothers, no discernible order. End of list. We didn't have a big family. This was written on a blank sheet of paper. I did not ask. Just kind of felt like a real roundabout way of saying, I like having sex more than I like being a dad. And I get it, if someone offered me sex with the love of my life or an 18-year-long chore, I know what I'm picking. I'd say the biggest whoops-a-daisy he ever committed was early one summer morning. He woke me up and was like, Danny, I need your help outside with something real quick, which was already way too nonchalant for what was about to happen. So I go outside, see that he's filling a bucket with hose water. That doesn't catch my eye nearly as much as the caged and terrified chipmunk. He's like, Danny, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we have a chipmunk problem. And this kind of seems like you're the one with the chipmunk problem. I woke up 30 seconds ago. Who else would have told me? Is the problem you're catching them like Pokemon and bringing them to the house? That I'm aware of. He was like, they've been getting into our gutters and they can cause some serious property damage, which to me does not seem like a DIY situation. Nevertheless, my dad says, all right, while I hold the bucket steady, I'm going to need you to push the cage on the So I started to cry. Which is an appropriate response for numerous reasons. One, my dad just asked me to take my first steps to becoming a serial killer. Steps I could have taken on my own time, thank you. Second, definitely being given the harder of the two tasks. And lastly, I was 9 years old. Yeah, I hadn't even hit double digits yet, but these were chores deemed appropriate. Great time to remind you, yes, I have 2 older brothers. Sleeping snug as bugs and rugs in the house behind me. I have no idea what stood out on my resume, but eventually my dad said, all right, fine, you don't have to do this, but you do need to toughen up. And I'd say we experienced the consequences of that sentence roughly a year later when me, my brother, and a couple of our friends were riding our bikes around the neighborhood. A chipmunk jumped out of the road. My brother didn't have time to swerve. Hits it, kills it, sad. But, we wanted to keep riding our bikes around. We had to do something about it, so we scooped it up, walked to the side of the road, and tossed it right in my neighbor's mailbox. Yeah, hindsight's 2020. What we did was horrible. Awful. In the moment, thought it was hilarious. Because unfortunately, it was my idea. Yeah, now we're kind of starting to see that the seeds my father has sown are blossoming into a nightmare for the entire community. We go home, we don't even think twice about it until my parents get a pretty upsetting phone call. Mom's time to walk in the living room like, Sam, Danny, can you guys pause Mario Kart for a few seconds? Did you guys put a dead animal in the neighbor's house? I'm like, nope. Sounds like a really good bit, though. And my dad was like, all right, well, we already called your friends and they admitted that you guys all did that together. Yeah, classic Kevin Lang setting traps. A lot of you might be waiting for my mom to chime in and be the voice of reason, and you can wait a little while longer. She said the most fucked up part, which was, we're not mad that you did it, we're mad that you lied about it. I'm not a parent, but it feels like you should be mad at both. I'm pretty sure what we did here today was illegal, but they've been fans of my comedy ever since. They have been very supportive of my comedy career, more supportive of me starting stand-up than therapy, actually, both of which I wanted to get into in high school, but my mom told me that her doctor told her that therapy only works if you've had something traumatic happen to you. I was like, yeah, I've got a laundry list of stunts your husband has pulled. A couple of those might qualify me, but luckily my dad was in the conversation and he had a solution. He was like, well, your Aunt Deb sees this homeopath named Beth. I've heard rave reviews about her. She can get to the bottom of why you're all jittery like this. Yeah, homeopaths aren't doctors. I don't know who needs to hear that. We can't just go throwing titles around. My brother makes gravity bongs in the garage doesn't mean he's a rocket scientist. Also, Aunt Deb lives 8 hours away in Minnesota. I bring that up thinking I dodged a bullet, but no, my father's like, oh, we don't actually have to go there. We can just cut off some of your hair and send it in the mail. Convenient. And practical. Do you guys know that you can send hair through the U.S. Postal Service? I do, because we put it to a vote and I lost. In exchange, Beth mailed us back 2 vials of non-FDA approved tinctures. So it just kind of goes to show you that mental instability is genetic. I didn't fall far from the tree. I'm also delusional. During the pandemic, I definitely bought a spell book just to see what's up. Started doing tarot readings, ripping 3 gravity bong hits a night. I wasn't tethered to reality by any means. The difference is I'm not recommending that lifestyle to people. When my mom was diagnosed with cancer, I wasn't like, hey, instead of going to medical professionals, you should go to this witch doctor I know. Her name's Beth, and she sucks. She only takes a little bit of hair. Chemo takes all of it. You know? I didn't give her cancer. I just want to throw that one out. They're doing great. She's loving to death. They just made a lot of interesting decisions that I don't fully agree with. You know, like my dad lovingly volunteered to be my volleyball coach in 6th grade. He also thought it would be a productive use of team huddle time to rank how everyone was doing. This man cannot stop making lists. And putting me at the bottom, right? He would say that me and this kid Evan were doing the worst. And I was holding back tears because I was a little used to my father's criticism. Evan wasn't. Evan was fine. Then Evan's mom had a 30-minute chat with my dad about what is and isn't appropriate to say to children. Better late than never. You know, it's a chat I wish every middle school coach was given. The very next year I had one yell at me, Lang, get your head out of your ass and into the game. I was like, I'm allowed to be bad at this. It's not the Navy SEALs, it's just the B team. My middle school for most sports had an A team and a B team. The A team was for the more athletic kids, and the B team was for kids with eating disorders. If you didn't walk in with one, you left with one. Well, that worked. We frequently had to do things like shirts versus skins, which, if you're a grown adult making children do that, you should be in prison. Here's a crazy idea. How about I remember who's on my fucking team? Has anyone tried that before? You know, we're expected to memorize the 50 states. I can manage the 4 people I'm allowed to pass the ball to. That way nobody has to have their tits out during practice. I had bad body image issues all throughout my teens. It did not help that I was ugly. Oof. Tough combo to pull off. You know, nobody said those like exact words to me, but I can pick up on context clues. Like my friends were all really into the Harry Potter books. I never caught on the whole reading bandwagon. I'd go see the movies with them, and before we saw the last one, they were like, let's all dress up as characters before we go, which is fun in theory. Does anybody here who has not heard this joke before want to take a guess as to which character they thought I resembled the most? And who I should dress up as? Any guesses? I will not move on.
Dobby.
Okay, never mind, forget it. Some of you came out here tonight to hurt my feelings. And I'm not mad at you. I'm just mad that you're correct. My friends thought I looked like Abby, who is a gremlin. Whose notable and only outfit is a burlap sack. That's how I got to dress up in public to see a movie in which, spoiler alert, he dies. Someone they knew going in, no one gave me a heads up. And you know, if you're someone who grew up loving the Harry Potter books, I do think it's time to reflect. I read them for the first time over the pandemic. I could tell 100 pages in that bitch was problematic. Like, I'm not surprised the grown woman describing 12-year-olds as gorilla-like has other names. Nobody else should either, you know. Then I got to the part where she describes Dobby. Holy shit. I'm not the one who needs to worry about going to hell. That's for sure. But, you know, it wasn't just my peers that made unsolicited comments about my appearance. It was also full-grown adults. Like I said, I did theater in high school, and nobody's as ruthless when it comes to describing a teenager's body like a high school theater director. Howard said to me, "Danny, your dancing's improved so much over the past few years. Do you know who you remind me of? That old Disney cartoon, Spooky Scary Skeleton." Well, got me again. Was really expecting to hear a human name. In his defense, I did weigh 20 pounds less and have a buzz cut, so I get it. But that was a hairdo I was not pulling off. No one gave me that constructive criticism. Not that it really would have mattered due to another fun, quirky choice my parents made. We did haircuts at home. So my father, a heterosexual man with the eyesight of Mr. Magoo, was allowed to take a razor to my skull once a month. Turns out he didn't have too many hairdos in his repertoire, so I just got to go to school looking fresh out of brain surgery. Move made to save the family a little extra money just cost me my self-esteem. I feel bad. I do paint my father to be a monster. He's a lovely man with many talents, and one of them just happens to be humbling me. He's been referring to me as an old soul, which is not a compliment. Have you guys met the elderly? I used to work in IT customer support, so unfortunately I've met all of them. For those who haven't worked in that field, it's a lot like helping your parents or grandparents set up their Wi-Fi, except they hate you. You are not allowed to hang up unless they threaten your life twice. In management's rule. And even when they aren't being aggressively hostile, they can still say shit that rattles you to your core. One gentleman said to me, "What was your name, Danny?" "I had a friend named Danny." "Well, my sister's friend, who was killed in 1987. "And you haven't met another one since?" Like, it's a... I also don't like being called an old soul because he started calling me that the same year I had to start taking medication for back pain and hair loss. So I wasn't exactly feeling 25 years young. And they nearly didn't give me the hair loss pills. They were like, "These can increase feelings of anxiety and depression." I was like, "So will losing my hair. How about you give them to me?" Nothing would tank my mental health faster than looking like Dobby again. Turns out, when your looks are constantly being compared to those of goblins and monsters, you can develop body dysmorphia. Whoops-a-daisy. Who could have seen that one coming? But, you know, we're working on it, working through it. There was a brief moment in college when I thought I was completely over it, until someone sent me a video of myself from behind on the treadmill. An act of domestic terrorism. I called Homeland Security. If you see something, say something. I saw something that day. I was just getting comfortable with what I looked like from the front. What I looked like from the back's one of my fucking business. I do feel a lot more confident in my appearances nowadays, a lot more comfortable in my skin, regardless of what people still choose to say right to my goddamn face. You know, like a year and a half or so ago, I went through a breakup, and the first date I went on post-breakup, the man said out loud to me, "So, do they not give you a free membership at the gym you work at?" Yeah. He was like, sick burn, dude. He was like, "If you just gained 5 pounds of muscle," and then pointed to areas he thought I could tone on. And in case you're wondering, what did he look like? Me. eyebrows to twink with a different haircut. I was like, listen to me, you four-eyed faggot. I could eat you and not gain 5 pounds, so zip it. Didn't come here to be insulted by Ichabod Crane. It's fine. And water off a duck's back. One positive takeaway, he did kind of help me get my revenge body. It's buried in my backyard. I'm beautiful, in case you're blind or stupid. Yeah, real Megan Fox type, specifically in her film Jennifer's Body, where she bites open a boy's chest cavity. So, not every thought needs to be said out loud, I guess, is the point of all that. And I am single. I know, huge shock, jaws are on the floor. And I am dating around, which is a loose term for going to strangers' homes and putting their genitals on them. It's what I'm doing and it's what I'm calling it, so. I have found out that dating men has proven to be quite the hurdle. They have a lot of audacity. I don't want to hear a single straight man tell me that dating is hard, because I have seen plenty of engagement announcements on social media that prove it isn't. Then Nicole, it's always the most beautiful woman I've ever seen standing next to an absolute troll. And her caption of the post is like, can't wait to spend the rest of my life under a bridge with this guy. Meanwhile, I'm getting cyberbullied by every gay man I've ever met. Someone I used to have a crush on texted me a screenshot of my Hinge profile. Yeah, part of my profile that says I do stand-up and improv and have a lot of other red flags. His comment to that was, oh my god, I love this answer. Yeah, not enough to match with me on Hinge, just enough to reach out and ruin my day. I'm not on Hinge to workshop material. I also find myself on Grindr. I hesitate calling that a dating app because it's not one where you can match with people you find mutually attractive. It's just a drop-down grid of the closest 60 queers. You can message or be messaged by anybody. That's how I, at the age of 18, chatted with Father Time himself. I told my ex that I had hooked up with a lot of older men, and his response to that was, hey, 30's not that old. Like, okay, first off, double it. Second, to a teenager, yes it is. It absolutely is. When I was 18, a 30-something-year-old man told me I needed to shave down there. I was like, no, I don't. I've got shady hands and my dad's vision. I need to take a razor blade to my crotch just because you're a pervert. None of us blocked, so that's kind of how that cookie crumbles. But, you know, I am being dramatic. I have met very lovely men on Grindr that I'm very grateful to know. It's just that when I first installed the app, I was living in my hometown of Waukesha, Wisconsin. Sure. It's not really known for a hustling, bustling LGBTQ plus community. It's mostly known for the Slenderman stabbings. For those unfamiliar with that news story, that was when two 12-year-olds stabbed their friend a bunch of times. Yeah, don't worry, they suck at it, she survived. And when asked, hey, why did you do that? They said it was for the online monster Slenderman. So, not the best place to meet fellas on the internet. I did ignore a lot of blatant caution signs just to experience physical intimacy with the most below-average Joes. One guy I was talking to back in the day, his profile photo was of a shirtless torso. I couldn't really fault him for that because I was doing the same thing. I had only recently stopped getting buzz cuts and I had no good pictures on my head, but we swapped face pictures. I liked what I saw. I hopped in my mother's Honda Accord, drove on over to the address he provided, and they say don't judge a book by its cover, but God, some covers have seen better days. Yeah, he opens the door wearing those basketball shorts from the early 2000s that are capri pants. look I've never seen pulled off. He's shirtless, just like his profile, but something that was very much not advertised was he was visibly balding. And, you know, I get it. If there's someone who gets being insecure about their hair, it's Buzzcut Kid. But I don't know. I was on pills no one recommended. Like, I highly doubt he's taken every avenue besides lying about it online. It did not deter me, however, from walking into the home. The reason why I call it the home and not his home is because the first thing he says to me is, by the way, this isn't my home. Okay, Goldilocks of love, whose home are we in? He was like, it's my friend's home. Don't worry, he's cool with it. He's sleeping upstairs. I'm like, oh, awesome. Another person condones this behavior. You know, sometimes when you date men, you have to think to yourself, am I going to need to fight for my life? And I just found out I was outnumbered, but still, it did not stop me from walking over to the room. The reason why the room is in quotes is because it was separated from the common area by a folding collapsible door. Providing as much privacy as construction can provide. And this room had 5 items. 5 items only, and 5 items worth noting. First was a lamp, which bold choice to illuminate that space. Second, a bare mattress on the ground. Not another Goldilocks reference. Third, a dehumidifier, begging the question, why is it so humid in here? Fourth was a bottle of lube, which I appreciate. And fifth was like a small pile of condoms, which I saw and honestly thought, that's not enough protection. You need to be giving out hazmat suits to people who walk in here. And this is one of my favorite parts of the show where I like to have the audience guess whether or not they think I'm more of a top or a bottom. It's a trick question because there's a third answer. It starts with a V. I'm actually a virgin. You're all whores. No, I am versed because, you know, when you grow up ugly, it's like, put me in, coach, I'll do whatever. I had agreed to top for this gentleman, and we quickly learned I was incapable of becoming aroused in this environment. Erectile dysfunction can be a blessing as well as a curse. And fellas, if you're struggling with it, I recommend doing Kegels. That's not a bit, that's just me paying it forward. And he offered to top, and I was like, I've actually never been more clenched in my life. They're not getting in. And that is when I decided to scamper on out of there. You know, it's true what they say. You gotta kiss a lot of frogs before you're kissing a prince. At a certain point in time, you do need to look in the mirror and be like, you fucked a lot of frogs, huh? People are really going to start to think it's your thing if you don't knock it off. So we are not out of the woods yet, unfortunately. Still about knee-deep in that pond. I went on a date with someone earlier this year who I think really thought he was going to be spending the night, but I didn't want to share my bed with someone who hit their big when I went down on them. I was like, oh, am I not titillating enough for you right now? I was in the middle of doing what I thought was a pretty damn good job. Turns out I need to be grape flavored to hold your attention. It's fine. I do feel like I've gotten better at dating. You know, I got my 10,000 hours in or whatever. It's tough in the beginning and no one prepares you for it. Like, the first coffee date I ever went on, we discussed for a full hour the AIDS crisis. It's literal boner killer. I know, it's upsetting. In the 80s, over 45,000 people died of AIDS, primarily queer people of color, mostly due to our government's negligence. And to this day, the number has skyrocketed to 3 million. And I know these are really upsetting facts to hear at a comedy show. I know they suck the air right out of the room. And that's exactly how I felt in that Starbucks that day. When I was just trying to help Zach get to know me. Because, yeah, I accidentally brought it up. Thought I was sharing a silly story, not opening the floodgates. It is a silly story, you know. I was 19 in my friend's dorm room when I got a phone call. I was like, hey, is this Danny Lang? I was like, yeah, this is he. They're like, this is the blood center of Wisconsin. Did you donate blood at a blood drive a few weeks ago? I was like, I sure did. They're like, okay, well, we were just calling because we wanted to let you know that we ran some tests on your blood to make sure that it was okay for us to use and give to our patients. And we just wanted to reach out and let you know that you'd be an excellent donor for platelets. Okay, yeah, executive decision made by me right now. You don't get to make phone calls anymore, ma'am. Jesus Christ almighty. What's it like when you deliver bad news? And apparently that is not a first date appropriate tale to tell. First dinner date I ever went on, I didn't know what to talk about, so I was just asking questions, trying to get to know him, found out way too much, way too fast. I asked, what do you do for fun? Not expecting that to be a loaded question. He was like, I do American Ninja Warrior training. I was like, cool, we're not the same. But I tried to keep the ball rolling. I was like, oh, I've seen that show. He was like, I haven't, I don't own a TV. I was like, I just signed up for those classes with no context. That's cool. No, I'm really glad I gave you my home address. I live on the second floor, but that's not going to be a problem for him, is it? So that then turned me into going on more dates where you don't have to talk the whole time, like going to the movies, which turns out can also backfire. I made the mistake of letting one gentleman choose what we saw. He chose the Joker, which was the wrong choice, especially on a first date with a stand-up comedian. I got to look at him during that open mic scene and go, honestly, he could be doing worse. This is Hollywood's depiction of bombing a set. Now everybody I know is the Joker. He's a cool dude. I still chat with him from time to time. It's actually through him I learned my big problem is I ask too many questions that I don't need the answers to. Like a couple years ago, I was texting him and I asked, what'd you do last night? And he was like, I watched a movie. I was like, oh, what movie? Already diving too deep down the rabbit hole with his track record of picking films. He didn't disappoint. He was like, I watched Over the Hedge. A DreamWorks animation from 2006. Why he busted it out a decade and a half later, no clue. I'm also not sure why I asked, how was it? The charity was like, I thought it was a little predictable. Yeah. You're a 46-year-old man. You're not the target demographic for the twists and turns those animals go through. He is 46 years old, but he's 5'3", so it's like we're the same age. I don't mind older men. You know, my ex was older than me, and that just sucked when it didn't feel like that. Like one time we were about to make love and he had his fingers in there to start and he said, Danny, I think this is as far as we can go today. You seem really tight, which is not me bragging. Because what I said in response was, yeah, I just need my hip to crack. Romantic. And after moving roughly a centimeter, there was a very audible pop. To which he said, oh yeah, that made an immediate difference. And the thing about hips is that there's two of them, and I was talking about the other one. So, actually, if you could just wheel me to the chiropractor, quick adjustment, and they can crack my back before you blow it out again. Yeah, it is not my soul that feels old. That's for sure. It's the spooky, scary skeleton of me. I am trying to live a healthier lifestyle. I do work out at the gym that I work at. Thank you very much. I am a facilities operation manager. It's the fanciest way of saying I fold towels for a living. I love it. I've become alarmingly passionate about these towels. One time my boss was like, Danny, we should be out here helping you more with these. I'm like, you should stay in your lane. You don't see me shoving my nose in your business, a personal training, or reading my emails, you know. I have a system and they ruin it every time, you know. I fold the towels, I roll them up, I make a little pyramid, usually with a base of about 7 to 9 towels, kind of we're feeling crazy. And yeah, I got pretty good at eyeballing a basket of towels, knowing how big of a base I'm going to need to make for my pyramid. And yeah, I'm high all the time at work. I think I've earned it because, like I said, I used to work in IT customer support. What I did not mention was that it was IT customer support for hospital networks, a job I started in June of 2020, making $15 an hour and averaging 350 phone calls a week. So I do think I deserve to go stony baloney and fold some laundry. Either that or I should be allowed to execute one elderly person. I choose a bad one. There are plenty. I'm making more money now than when I had to follow HIPAA regulations, so I've made a lot of enemies, like Mary Becker of Madison, Wisconsin. Not only did that banshee yell at me, I also overheard her chastising her nurses for giving her the wrong type of Jell-O. So, yeah, I don't know what sent Mary to the hospital. I just also hope it sent her to the grave. And if it didn't, I'll gladly take her there. And to my coworkers who are here this evening. Hey. Who gives a shit? I don't know. Having given a note numerous times that I need to be more bubbly behind the front desk, and I know a surefire way to take the edge off, so I think it's a win-win. I got into marijuana the same way I got into my other hobbies. My older brothers introduced it to me, which is something the DARE program didn't mention. They made it seem like it was just going to be some dude at a party, not my closest immediate relatives. I like being high with my brothers. Or more accurately, we hate being sober. We really take after our mom. I used to think that I smoked too much, and then I hung out with my brother Sam for a few months, and now I do for sure. Sam is the space cadet that makes gravity bongs. And I know I've mentioned gravity bongs a few times. I can explain them for those who haven't had the privilege. A gravity bong is when you take an empty Gatorade bottle, or a soda bottle and some tin foil, garbage. A small science fair project later, you're too high in your childhood home. I was more used to edibles. I love a good Eddie Van Halen. Love that you never know what you're going to get, whether it's a relaxing evening or a living hell. Like the first time I bought a pop brownie for myself was in college. I bought it from my friend Kelly, and as she handed it to me, she said, "Don't worry, this isn't cut with Xanax." Didn't know it was on the menu. Did I trust her? No. Did I eat the whole thing? Yeah. Did I then go see a 3-act-long college theater production of a play about Adam and Eve? Yeah, I made a lot of wrong choices. Every 10 minutes, I had to look over at my friend Claire and ask, "Claire, was that supposed to happen?" And she'd look at me and say, "I'm also in the audience." Looking at the same two kids in a woolly mammoth costume as you are. So we all had a tough time that day. My parents think that we smoke too much, and that's fair. It is hard to consider 3 gravity bong hits a night recreational, but my brothers tried to argue. They're like, "You can't be addicted to weed. Like, you can be addicted to anything." They made a whole show about it. There's a woman who eats her couch. We're inhaling fire out of the trash. This train has gone off the tracks. My friends in college tried to tell me I was addicted to Diet Coke, which is an insane thing to be told by a bunch of alcoholics. No college student has the authority to judge another person on what they're putting in their bodies. One of my friends was like, "Danny, all that aspartame's actually really bad for you." I'm like, "Oh, and the Ritalin we snorted last night wasn't?" No, I took it too far, got it. I had fun in college, probably too much fun compared to a lot of people. Like, my freshman year roommate was just not having a good time. We were polar opposites. I got to do stand-up and improv. He didn't do any extracurriculars. I'd go to bed pretty late. He'd go to bed relatively early. I'd always try to suggest bonding activities, like, "Let's build a fort in the room." He'd be like, "Stop doing Ritalin," I never did drugs in front of him, primarily because of how he behaved when he saw me take 2 tablets of melatonin. He was like, oh my God, don't you think that's a little much? First off, it's not horse tranquilizer. Second, of course it's too much. Of course this is a bad situation to be in. I drink caffeine all day, every day, so now I need a fistful of these like Myconites to go to bed. And I pay the price in nightmares so you can get off my back. He was like, I typically take 1 milligram right before bed. I'm like, cool, Mormon. You know, you also have a blood disorder, so your tolerance isn't exactly industry standard. He did have a blood disorder that I learned about the hard way, because, you know, show don't tell. Yeah, I got a phone call from one of his friends. I was like, hey, Danny, Aaron's not doing too hot. He drank a bit too much. You're going to want to come back up to your room. What not doing too hot meant was convulsing. Yeah. Followed by throwing up, passing out for a few seconds, rinse and repeat. His friend was like, what do you want to do? I want you to contact someone with the appropriate skill set. I feel like the dog in Peter Pan was expected to babysit. Colleges, they give you one online alcohol awareness seminar and just expect you to handle things. Only thing I remember from the class was that a clear sign of alcohol poisoning is being non-responsive. My roommate is talking. He's saying one thing over and over again, which is the doctor said it was fine. I was like, really? The doctor greenlit this song and dance? That's hard to believe. Don't love that you're bringing her up in the first place. Turns out what she had actually said was, Aaron, you have a blood disorder. Stop drinking. And it's just like the one thing you can bond over in college. Yeah, dorm life really knows how to drain the soul right out of you. Like one time I just casually asked him, hey, how's it going? And he very defeated said, I'm living the dream, what about you? He's like, I mean, I'm having fun, but this isn't my dream either, Aaron. You know, my wildest fantasy is I didn't live in a broom closet with someone who hates me. Yeah, I dreamt about sharing a bathroom with 20 other dudes. Not as fun and flirty in real life now, is it? It's disgusting, but it's fine. He was a fine roommate. I think it was the dorms that was the problem. Worst roommate situation I had was definitely senior year when there was a bat in my apartment. Swung me in the other room. He's got rooms. The bat just kind of took complete control of the airspace in the home. I didn't know what to do, so I called my dad because he's historically great with animals. And you know, a wise man who doesn't always have his finger on the pulse, he was like, oh, that's weird, it's January, it should be hibernating. Oh, yep, that's the weird part. I don't care what month it is, I just don't want him in his So he told us to call our landlord. We did. He sent over 2 dudes with state-of-the-art technology, a net and a bucket. In and out of there in 20 seconds, didn't even have a chance to say goodbye, so wherever that guy is, I hope is doing what I loved. Which was shrieking, oh my God. Echolocation is cool in theory and then loud in person. You know, it's like my eyes don't work great either. You don't see me screaming about it. On a Saturday morning when some of us, quite frankly, are trying to come down off of Ritalin, so... I'm glad to be out of school. I was not a great student. I know, breaking news, kid who puts loose powder up his nose isn't a bookworm. I can't really take the blame for all my poor grades. Definitely some, not all, but like I went to Catholic school all throughout my life, and it's, sure. It's nuts to have that affect your GPA. It's like, yeah, sorry I'm failing make-believe class. It's not my fault this shit doesn't make sense. One time I asked a teacher, I was like, if Jesus died on Good Friday and then rose from the dead 3 days later, why do we celebrate Easter Sunday? And he looked at me like I was stupid and said, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I was like, that's how we're counting days? Huh, tomorrow is 2 days away. I stand taught me for a full year, so a lot of stuff slipped through the cracks. It's the same man that told me any baptized Christian can perform a Catholic baptism, so I did. Yeah, last year I baptized my friend's 1-year-old kid. It's not that hard if any schmuck priest can do it. All you need is water and someone who can't give consent, probably they're known for it. Were you mad at me about it? For those who are unfamiliar with the Catholic baptism, I'll regale you with how mine went. I was a baby, and my parents handed me to a stranger who waterboarded me. And then held me Lion King style to a congregation that clapped and cheered as I cried. It was my first time bombing on stage. I don't think the priests need to be involved, you know, like the priest that my parents wanted to do my brother's baptism had broken his hand and was on painkillers and not delivering mass that week. So they just had him come over to the house afterwards and do it there. And no. Because as someone who's done a baptism before, I can confidently say it's a job that requires both hands. And as someone who has accidentally taken too many painkillers before, the last thing that person needs is a newborn to hold, you know? They like to wiggle, they don't want to be baptized. I don't want to shame anyone here who has faith. I think it's important to believe in something. You know, like, I have faith that flossing is working. I floss every single night, and almost every single night I'm spitting blood in that side. Just like, one of these days that's not going to be the case. You know, you gotta do what you gotta do to feel like you're making a difference in the world. You know, that's why I donate blood, and that's actually why I've gathered you all here today. Can you lock the doors? I did run a virtual blood drive in the weeks leading up to the show. If you donated, thank you so much. I'll reimburse you for your ticket. If you didn't donate, go out and donate. It's easy peasy. It is truly like the laziest way to feel like a good person. You fill out a little survey, sit there for 10 minutes, are given a snack and called a hero. It's an amazing way to spend a Sunday morning. And, you know, they say you're not supposed to donate blood if you're a man who's had sexual relations with another man, which, guilty. But, you know, they ask that because it's a fear that like all gay men have AIDS, which is not true, and also it can affect anyone. So as long as you're practicing safe sex, you should be in the clear. And also, while they do ask you that on their survey, they don't fact check you. Not like, really, Danny, you've never had sex with a man. No, we believe you. It's just that we do have your medical records here from Howard Brown Health and Boys Town, probably. It seems here you got some test results back last year after Market Days weekend. Just wanted to hear it straight from the horse's mouth. The woman gave you gonorrhea? They're not like that. Go donate blood. And go get tested. I don't have gonorrhea anymore. I feel like that's important to bring up. That's why they call it gonorrhea, because it's gone. I do like donating blood. It helps me kind of fight off some more negative emotions. I do sometimes struggle with suicidal ideation. I know that's another tough topic to broach at a comedy show. I'm also not thrilled that every once in a blue moon I want to play Hungry Hungry Hippos with my medication. We're all on the same page. I don't want to freak anyone out. I am, taking the necessary precautions. I make use of the suicide hotline. Their number is 988. They shortened it because I was the issue. Definitely not the fact that one time my call got disconnected and I said out loud, all right, what's plan B besides the obvious? And they called back. And things are different from high school. I am now in therapy, learning good tips and tricks on how to combat those feelings. Thank you, one person. One thing I learned was to have something to look forward to, so I bring that up every time I make plans now. This could really be make or break for me, too. Another thing I learned was to have a pet. And I don't have a pet, but I did used to hang out with this outdoor cat, Charlie, a lot. Yeah, I love Charlie. If you're ever on Wayne Avenue, go say hey. He's this adorable little black cat. He used to be feral, but people can change. And we've been through a lot together. He comforted me greatly during my breakup. I watched him fight a dog. That was a tough day for both of us. So we're just chilling on the sidewalk, having a grand old time, when a woman was approaching, walking her dog. She was like, "Oh, is this your cat?" And I was like, "Oh, no, he's the neighbor's." She was like, "Does he like dogs?" Really, a follow-up question. I don't know, have you not seen a cartoon in the past 100 years? Take one look at this cat and ask me if it likes dogs. Back arched, teeth bared, hissing. I'm not asking stupid questions like, "Does your dog like cats?" It's yanking on the leash trying to get at Charlie. And push comes to shove, Charlie jumps at the dog's face. And I try to intervene, I try to grab Charlie. You ever try to grab a cat that's not yours? Turn on the garbage disposal, put your hand in the sink, same feeling. The dog shook Charlie off in like seconds. The woman was still like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" To the dog, didn't say a single other word to me. Because she forgot the answer to her first question. She's looking at me like it's my job to chastise this cat. I'm like, "Ma'am, take one look at Charlie. He knows damn well things just got out of hand." He's embarrassed as hell. He jumps into the backyard, tail tucked between his legs. Woman and a dog walk away. I'm left standing there like, that was supposed to make me want to not kill myself. And it worked. It's amazing. Anything can keep you tethered to this planet. Whether it's religion or volunteering or making sure a cat doesn't fist fight a neighborhood. We all have our roles to play, and sometimes when I share these things with my parents, my dad will often say, "God doesn't make junk." Yeah, okay. I agree. And even if he did, we could probably get high out of it. So, got a win-win and a right up top. All right. Well, with all that being said, thank you all so much for coming out to the show today.